What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. We're going to be talking about communication today and how we can maybe get better, upgrade. We have an expert coming on. She is awesome. Laura Camacho is an executive presence coach who helps leaders communicate authentically to build a healthy culture and drive results. With insights from luxury branding, political campaigns, and neuroscience, she tailors strategies to empower high performers to connect and inspire. Her work has been featured in Forbes and Training Industry, and she's the author of Cultured Communication Workbook and the Practical Guide to Effective Communication. Her podcast, Speak Up with Laura Camacho, is a top-ranked communication skills resource globally. Well, I'm so excited to have you on, Laura. You've been doing some amazing stuff out there. How is your morning going? Great to see you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Well, here in Charleston, South Carolina, it's a sunny day and it's cool enough to wear a sweater. So that's reason for celebration. And of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up. So it's a great day. I'm very happy to be here and to talk to your audience. I want you people that are listening, I want you to know that what JM has done with this Let's Go Win podcast is quite remarkable. And he makes it look easy, but it takes a lot of work. But I'm sure he appreciates all the support from you listeners. So thank you. He was just telling me how attractive you all are.
Well, thank you for saying that. And it's true. You brought up Thanksgiving, so we may as well talk about it, even though this will come out much after.
Mm-hmm.
You work in a world of communication and you work in a world of influence. And when I think of just being grateful and thankful, this attitude, how can we apply that? Because you said the word Thanksgiving. Immediately I go, yes, you're right. And we should celebrate this every single day. I don't know if it applies to the world we're in, but when I think of communication, often I say these things like you just did to my audience, like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so pleased, and I want to recognize you for just being you. I wish the world did more of that, Laura. I don't know if this is a practical thing, but I'm just curious your thoughts on this because you said the word Thanksgiving. It sparked something in me, and I just want to dig into it a little bit.
I love that. Well, because yesterday I was in a corporate meeting with a very large company that everybody listening would recognize, but I will not name. And at the end of the very long meeting, we were wished something like, if you are celebrating this week, we hope you enjoy it. If you're celebrating a holiday this week, we hope you enjoy it. And if you are not, we hope that you get some rest. And I thought, wow, I didn't know Thanksgiving had gotten controversial. And for some people it has. But to me, especially as an American who's lived abroad, I am so proud of the fact that we celebrate giving thanks. That Abraham Lincoln, he was definitely on the right track. Like, yes, we have much to be thankful for. None of us are, saints right now. We're all works in progress, but we have so much to be grateful for. And, that ties to communication in a couple of ways. First of all, one really helpful pro tip is to assume positive intent, where sometimes people are saying things and you're like, are you an idiot? Like, what's wrong with you? How could you say that? But we don't know what's going on. So assuming positive intent is a very good practice in communication. And second of all, to realize that it's, a big part of communication is emotional. Even if you're an engineer, I don't care if you're data driven, there's an emotional component there, how people feel. And if people feel appreciated, that's where the discretionary labor kicks in. And discretionary labor is the work you don't have to do. The work of going is a technical term for going above and beyond. And even as I hear myself say that, it reminds me of this mental situation I've had going on lately, is thinking that we're just so transactional, and we don't want to be manipulated. Like, oh, I'm going to be nice to JM, so he's nice to me. I mean, that's good, but it's deeper than that. We are, even if we're data driven, we are human beings at the end of the day. And gratitude is something that makes us better people.
Yeah, I love this idea of emotions, and here's why. You mentioned living abroad. Now, one thing I agree on with a thought. Look, we're people all over the globe. We all have emotions, and ultimately, when we're trying to communicate something, we're trying to emote some form of emotion when we speak. Are we not? Is not
No,
just
no.
saying words? No. Okay,
No,
tell me more.
no, 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 no. You haven't talked to my people. They're just, oh, Laura, I just need to get this point across. JM just needs to do his job. You know? I just need him to do this thing that he's supposed to do. No, a lot of people, especially the technical, like nerds are my people. They are so smart. We owe them a debt of gratitude because they've brought us the technology that we use. But there's a danger of thinking that, oh, it's all transactional. I just need to, plug this information in to get this result out. So, I mean, maybe that's why you have been so successful, is because you tapped into the emotional needs of people, which are much larger, even if they're invisible, than our need even for food and shelter.
Well, I think that's what's fascinating in the world we're in right now with AI coming out. The difference, I think, between artificial intelligence and human beings would be that emotional side. Now, they're working on somehow getting these robots, I'll use just for lack of a better term, to feel that emotion. But isn't that really the biggest differentiator between us and that side? Now, again, even the nerds of the world, they do feel emotions.
Of
And yes,
course we
a
do. Yeah.
debt of gratitude to them for everything they've created because their brains operate so much differently than mine. Not that I'm not a nerd. I'm a nerd, but just in not
A
the
different
smart
level,
technical way.
different category nerd.
But doesn't that really differentiate us from the AI, is our ability to feel and to, I guess, show that and to have empathy and to relate that? Isn't that the difference?
Yeah, it is the difference. But the people behind AI with very good intentions. There's a loneliness epidemic, and they are seeing AI as a potential tool to simulate caring, simulate to be a companion to people. Of course, you know, that sounds very creepy to me at this point, but that's that's I didn't make that up. I mean, that's coming your way, or at least attempts to do that. And even today, most of you, not most, but a lot of emails, a lot of presentations, a lot of proposals were fed into Chat GPT and lightly edited and presented. And I do that also. So think about, if chat is taking over our business communications in written form, then all the more reason we need to bring that empathy and the humanity into our spoken word. But damn, think about, if you're top of a company and you've got stockholders, on your tail about earnings and the stock price. I mean, empathy might be something you're concerned about, but you're more concerned about those results.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and you're right. Well, especially when you have those shareholders, the job number one is not to send out love and rainbows and hugs.
Right.
It is to produce. Fair enough. However, I would say those great leaders, when they have an ability to get their people to really move,
Oh,
and
absolutely. That's
yeah,
it.
and you have a topic on here that I love, and it's not what you say, but rather how you say it. And again, being a communication major was one of my majors, and psychology was the second one. So I am all about what this is saying. It
Mhm.
is not necessarily what you say. In fact, I've heard fascinating things about nonverbal versus verbal communication and how much is being received. What are you seeing data wise? What are you seeing when we talk? What do you mean by it's not what we say, but how we say it? And I know that sounds basic, but it's really not. I think there's a lot to discover and really unpack here.
Yes, thank you. That's such a loaded question, and good for you for studying communication. I did not study communication until I got my PhD, which I did basically to keep a job at a university. But when I was in my 20s, I married a Venezuelan and moved to Venezuela and spoke Spanish, decently. But I saw, this was in 1988, so pre-internet. But in a developing country, things don't work the way they work here. And like you needed to communicate, you needed to evoke positive emotion in people like a banker, the person in charge of giving out driver's licenses, the person administering the driver's license test. This is from somebody who did not get her driver's license there because she didn't get that lesson soon enough. And no, for me, at that time, before becoming a communication coach, I needed a communication coach because I was taught, say what you mean, Laura, and mean what you say, which is a good foundation, but it is not. It is far from the whole picture. So that's why. And it's just like a disposition. If you're more introverted, you tend to economize on your language and you don't want to make the meeting last longer, and you feel like what you're saying isn't that important, or, oh, it doesn't really matter. And so words are vessels that carry meaning, but people have different approaches to that. And some people talk too much and they give too many details and they just ramble from a good place of like wanting to make sure that JM really understands it. Maybe I don't think he's that bright. And gosh, yes, I'm going to go through it one more time. Or the person who says, oh, JM will figure it out. He's a smart cookie, and it doesn't say anything. So it's hard, and it's hard to know, right? Because we're all different, and it's hard to assess how to best speak up sometimes.
I guess that would be reading the room, maybe some emotional intelligence. You brought up introverts versus extroverts, and
Yes.
this is a fascinating subject because I think so often even our definition of what an introvert is versus an extrovert, I want to establish that. But for instance, my wife, communication and mine, far different. I've said this many times. I'm not saying anything she hasn't heard before. She could talk to a doorknob for 30 minutes, no problem, and be just fine. My approach is to say as few words as humanly possible to get the point across and move forward. Now, she has an ability to storytell, I would say, far greater than I. And it's been this interesting thing to watch because I speak for a living. This is what I do. I get on stage, I do keynotes, but yet I am a man of concise communication, or at least that is my intent, typically. Not always being the greatest speaker that way because often people want those details. They want all of it. How do we, well, let's start with read the room. I threw a lot out there, but let's just start with that. How do you adjust your communication? Because ultimately, when I say something, what I want is Laura and the audience to understand what point I'm trying to convey. That's the whole idea of communication, if I'm not mistaken, is I want people to get something from it and learn from it, and let's grow from it. That's my intent. But often maybe I miss the some of those details that the audience really wants. How do we learn that? How do we read this room?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's an imperfect art and science to it, but it also starts with your intention. And that's one thing I do think introverts carry the advantage. And I'm in that category as well, because we think before we speak. And so sometimes we overthink it though. So that's not good. We need introverts and extroverts. I mean, a dinner party of all introverts would be very short. Like, oh, thank you. It was great dinner. Bye. So we need both, but we need to think about what is our intention, and we need to take what we know about the audience and, craft a message that makes it easy for them to do what we want them to do or what we think they should do. But there's a time for also entertainment. And I bet your wife could take us trip to the vending machine and make it into this epic adventure that people would just be laughing and thinking she is such a cool person. And how did JM actually get her to marry him anyway, right? She's so charming, right? And so it takes all kinds. And but introverts do have this special ability with public speaking, because we think about it, and we want every word to count for something. So we deliver value, but sometimes we give too much content and not enough storytelling. So it's like it can be a little bit too intense. I'm just speaking from my own. Whereas an extrovert might give a presentation that is just, has you on the floor laughing and delighted, laughing and crying, and it's so good. And at the end of the day, you say, well, what did you learn? Oh, I don't know, but it was great. And who do they want back? Probably that person, right? So it's knowing, why are you speaking? There's a great acronym. Wait, why am I talking? That's the first thing. And introverts are better at that. Doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, and getting clear on, why am I talking? And I'm talking to answer the question before I pass the baton back, is so that you guys listening can pick up a few tips. And first of all, think about communication differently. I'm just here to remind you, like, out of all the things beyond our control, which is the majority, there are some things that we can do better, and it doesn't cost anything, and that's to communicate better.
Yeah, and I want to get into that. Why am I talking? I love that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to teach that. So I hope you don't mind me borrowing that.
No, not at all.
As you're talking, I could picture two different speakers. One would be world renowned. He speaks, I won't say his name, but when he speaks, it's eloquent, it's entertaining, and he'll drone on for an hour and a half. I'll walk away and I didn't learn a darn thing, but people love him.
Yeah.
There's another gentleman that, it's dry, but every time I leave, I'm like, I'm running through a brick wall because I have tangible, actionable items that I can go do. And so I think what we want, I would imagine, is we want to bring the two together.
Yes.
And you mentioned Lincoln. I immediately thought of I Have a Dream, the Gettysburg Address. These are two not long speeches. They are very short in nature and yet extremely powerful. So, and painted a picture. Mm-hmm. So how do we get better? How do we give our I Have a Dream speech? Because that's one of those, like, it's up there. It's up there of all time speeches given. It really moved people, and obviously it had a great cause behind it.
Right, a great purpose statement. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we get better, Laura? Because ultimately we all want to improve on this, whether we're an introvert, we're an extrovert, we read the room, we want to get better at this.
No, well, I'm not guaranteeing that anybody's going to reach the Gettysburg Address or I Have a Dream level, okay? But we can all get better, moving in that direction. So we mentioned, why am I talking? And a lot of times, it's to move something from point A to point B, or is to share on a topic. So what if part of your intention is to evoke curiosity about your message, like to evoke curiosity about, why should I communicate better? Because I can tell you, when I started my company in 2009, and I was thinking, well, communication, you just hear complaints about it all the time. So what am I going to do with all that money that people are going to pay me to go in and fix this problem that everybody recognizes? But it turns out, if you just go to somebody at a company and say, would you like some communication skills training? The answer is probably going to be, I'll let you know. Yeah, thank you so much. I did not, you don't evoke curiosity. What does that even mean? So if you think about, how can I evoke curiosity about your topic? That's one question that can take you a long ways. And here's the thing, like, especially for analytical types, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And that's been our, like, compass, straight line, get to the point, say the thing. And for certain occasions, that is definitely the correct answer. But if you want to inspire people, if you want to do more than just move people from point A to point B? How can you evoke curiosity? How can you not tell them the whole thing? I have a trick I learned just recently, because that's the great thing about life, is that you keep learning. And here's a trick uh, of how to start a talk, is to mention something totally unrelated, because a pleasant surprise, or saying the not expected, is the filet mignon. That's when you do that, because everybody thinks they know what you're going to say. And Laura's going to tell us to listen to our audience. She's going to tell us to read the room, and she's going to tell us to, I don't know, pay attention. But what if I said, well, no, your real purpose is to create curiosity? Hopefully that is unexpected to a lot of people. And so they're like, oh, maybe she does have something interesting to say. So whatever your topic is, think about evoking curiosity, and think about how you could say, example, I were to talk to you about different kinds of glue. There's cement glue, and there's glue for wood, and there's Elmer's glue, and there's glue sticks. And so maybe I could tie that into, well, there's different ways to make your message sticky. How's that for on completely in the moment, unrelated topic, tying it together?
Pretty darn good. I got to give you credit. That was nice, because I was like, is she going to talk about how to create a glue? No, it's how to make it sticky. I love it. You said a lot there that I want to touch on, but I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at your background with the luxury branding, political campaigns, and then neuroscience. And again, this is the nerd part of me that I'm like, okay, neuroscience, I'm in, because so much of what we're doing is we obviously have the different layers of our brain, and we have, the prefrontal cortex, and we're talking to the subconscious, we're talking to the conscious mind. Tell me more about this neuroscience and how that applies to communication. What did you find as you dove into this fascinating world?
Well, I'll mention two, possibly three things. Well, the first thing is about the neuroscience relates to the luxury brand marketing, because how is it that you get people to pay $1,000 for a silk scarf that you could buy for 20? Like, really? How do you do that? How do you get somebody to pay? Oh my gosh, Rolls Royce has a special feature, and they have they're marketing geniuses. But one of their features is a picnic basket that comes with their car. That's $50,000 for that. Like, how do you get people to do that, right? So that to me was like, talk about geeking out. And so it's like creating that story in the brain, and that feeling, and that specialness. And so here's the thing, and our brains are kind of lazy, right? We're if I were wealthy, I would not be doing this, JM. I would be reading books, eating chocolates, I'd be obese, and it'd be great, right? Except for the health problems. But our brains, we have these neural pathways, our customary ways of thinking. That's where our biases come from. Oh, it's this blonde white lady, she must be this way and that way. We have these idea, oh, she's going to talk about communication, she's going to tell me to read the audience. That these neural pathways built in through our school and education and work. And it's when you can break that synapse, break that circuit with something unexpected, that's when people start paying attention. Unless you're giving out $100 bills, right? And if you're giving out Ben Franklin's, you don't need any of this. but if you're in a work context or inspirational context, so it's the breaking the neural pathways is one thing. Then luxury marketing is the power of an evocative story. And the third thing, and this, for any of you giving presentations, this is going to make your day, so listen up. When we are creating a presentation, it doesn't matter the topic, because everybody listening has had to do that or does that from time to time. We are using what you mentioned, the executive brain. Like, we're thinking about what we want to say, how we want to say it, how we want to structure it. But the audience listening, the message filters first through the amygdala, which is the fight or flight. And so the brain is like, is this even relevant? Do I need to pay attention? Is my Amazon package, has it arrived yet? It's your brain. Your brain's protecting you. In both cases, you're using your executive brain to really get that message and show everybody this thing that's so important and all the details. And then the listener is like, is it really? Are you gonna entertain me? Are you gonna? What's the payoff for me to really pay attention? So there. How's that? It's a little neuroscience. What do you think?
Well, again, every time you speak, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. So the way I heard it and try and simplify it for my brain,
Yeah.
we want to evoke curiosity and yet state our intention straight away for the lazy brain to say, you're safe. This is what you're getting from it. Here's what to expect from me. I'm not going to make you do mental gymnastics to understand what the heck I'm saying. The other thing you said, and this is what I found fascinating, I talk about this often, we've dropped our attention span from 12 seconds to 8 seconds, I think, in the last decade. Since really the smartphone has come out.
Yes.
Good, bad, and different.
Right.
We're just in and out. We're in and out. Our attention is shorter and shorter and shorter. I guess it's our duty and responsibility, not only as a presenter, but just as human beings, to know that and to keep their curiosity, keep their interest. So how do we go about doing that, Laura? Because again, 8 seconds, how many times do people go in and out while I was talking about it?
Oh, they will. They're always, even if you're giving out Ben Franklin's, they're going to be, okay, it's not my turn yet. I've got a minute or two. Like your attention is in and out, in and out. So the ticket is to bring them back. Right. And on top of that, like, who's paying attention? Who's got time? Like everybody is so busy and they're tired. And I think the shortcut answer, if you want a hack, is to make it shorter. Like cut it in half. You've got a presentation, half an hour, take 30 minutes. Ha ha ha. Take half of that. Take 15 minutes. There's different techniques. You want to be organized, you want to set up expectations, you want to violate those expectations in a fun way by sharing something different, like from time to time. You want to maybe change modality, don't read to them the text on the slides. The toolbox is pretty dang large. It's just a lot of tools, and you have to gather the ones that you have to use in the time with all the constraints you have. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. And one thing I want to share with the audience that I have definitely become more comfortable with. So I used to have this thing where you hired me to be speaking for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Now, if at about an hour and a half or 2 hours, I've delivered everything and eyes are starting to glaze over, I used to just keep going. Because you hired me for 3 hours, I'm going to go ahead and give you all 3 hours. I've become more comfortable to say, you know what? They got everything they can get right now. Like, if I keep talking, it's actually diminishing return now. We're going to lose anything we talked about earlier. I don't know if there's a question there. It's a statement. That was something I had to get comfortable with.
Oh, yeah, same. Oh, yeah. I totally get what you're saying. The first college course that I taught, I covered the whole semester in like 6 weeks. That is the same tendency, like, kind of cram that value in and teach them. And it is a challenge. And the thing is, can an audience really take in what is their capacity to take in information during 3 hours? And I would say maybe they need more participation. And I don't know the setup, but let me tell you something that I learned from a keynote speaker in Charleston, South Carolina. There's a technology conference every April. It's called Dig South, and I am a volunteer at that every year. And one year, they bring these biggish names from California or other places, and they fly them in. And this one speaker was like the opening act, big deal, and from San Francisco. And of his 45 minutes, he spent at least 20, maybe 25, like picking people from the audience, bringing them on stage and talking to them about topics that he would later tie into his talk. But I was like, he hasn't started his presentation yet. He's cheating. That's my school marm headmistress mindset coming in, but they loved it. And so, that's something that those of us that are so highly conscientious and wanting to, they paid me for 3 hours. I need to talk 3 hours. Maybe you don't. But I was just really impressed that this guy took at least half of his time that he was supposed to talk, just bringing people on stage and talking to them and not giving his talk. So
yeah, well, it's actually a brilliant strategy as well, because he's now relating to the audience immediately. He's from San Francisco. This is a group from Charleston coming on stage, human
yeah,
to human. There's a lot, as you know, that probably happened because,
yeah,
and this would be maybe what we can get into, the body language that
mhm,
happens. So, for instance, if I'm on stage talking to an audience, I don't know, 50 feet, 20 feet, whatever it is away, there's a barrier, and there's
mhm,
usually speakers and there's a mic and there's all sorts of barriers.
mhm.
When he brings them on stage, now we're heart to heart having a
Yes.
real conversation, and all these Charlestonians, the South Carolinians, they're all saying, oh, actually, you know what? David or John or
Mhm.
Sarah or whatever the speaker's name was, they're just like me.
Yeah.
They're another human. So that's brilliant. Um,
And it broke expectations, JM. See, like who was expecting that? I don't think anybody was. And so that's just another example of doing. People think, oh, so and so is going to talk about this topic. Well, I kind of know what he's going to say, but maybe I'll learn something. And it is true that the older you get, you do build up this body of knowledge, and you do know something about a lot of topics. But when you can bring that unexpected twist, folks, the plot twist, which is what makes a novel good, it's what makes a movie good. If you can bring that to your quarterly business review, you're golden.
That's really good. I did something that I think a lot of people are conscientious of, or they certainly don't want to do. And that was, I said, and it was
Um,
this big. Do you have any tips, golden nuggets to people breaking those trigger words, if you will? And I think we all, at least I will speak for me, I've had different ones through my career where one time people started counting the amount of times I said bro or brother, and it was substantial. Now, that's part of my verbiage, but it wasn't necessarily adding to the communication. It was filler words. What is your thoughts on this? Are there ways to break those ums, those ands, those you knows, those likes? Have you found things that have helped people so that we can communicate as efficiently as possible?
I just wanted to get the name right. Okay, so I have two contradictory things to say on that. One is there is an app called Credible that was created by this young woman. I think it just launched last year, and that will, if you have an iPhone, no, an iWatch, it will count. You tell it the word to count, and it will count them for you. And so that is a technical solution, and I think there are other filler word counters out there. So that's one thing, and my preferred filler word at the moment is so. And I do say it. However, about 2 years ago, I interviewed an expert from Nevada, the University of Nevada, and her whole thing was filler words are fine. It makes you relatable. Don't worry about it. So I think some feel, a little bit is good, probably too much. And the young woman who created Credible, her audience was college students and very young professionals. So maybe they do need it more. But I'll give a third bonus tip that will help you. Anybody listening who wants to come across as more powerful, I'm about to tell you how, so you're welcome. It's practicing silence, being comfortable with silence, not trying to fill in every single second, and using it strategically, like just now. Oh, yeah, there's this really important thing I need to tell you. And this is what happened. You see, that didn't feel like Laura doesn't know what she's saying. It felt like, what is she going to say?
Suspenseful. Yeah.
Yes.
Dramatic.
And so that's like giving your brain a task to do, going back to the neurology or the neuroscience. Okay, I want to, insert some strategic pauses here. So that's worried about that rather than the filler words.
I love that. Yeah. And that's something that personally, when you talk to me, my wife will tell you, she's like, hurry up, get it out. Like, you're such a slow talker. Yet when I get on stage, there are times where I'm revved up, man, and it's just going. And so there are moments where I need to be able to do what you do. That power of silence and slowing things down to really emphasize a point
Exactly.
is so important. There's a topic here that I absolutely have to get to because I talk about this often. I think it's huge in leadership, and I love that you brought it up. So building influence is essential.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. Tell me more, because I'm all about it. I love influence. I think it makes the world go round. If you influence, you can create some amazing things. We can do some cool stuff in the world. But how do we do it, Laura? How do we really get better at creating influence?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. And an influence is where extroverts have an advantage, just to, to be completely blunt about it. If we're in a company, JM, let's say we're, deciding who we're going to promote or give this juicy project to. And let's say we're such high executives that we don't really know the people that well, but we've heard Mary speak a lot more. And John, I hear he's good, but I haven't heard his voice is not ingrained in my brain. We're going to go for Mary. We'll make a case. They're probably both good candidates. And just the brain, the more words, the more talking, the more conversations, is just building a deeper groove in the brain of memory, because you know how we forget everything. Like, oh, even the fact that they know your name in a company's can be a sign that you have some visibility. So that is something that if you're identify as more introverted, you need to be aware of that. And what I advocate for is being more strategic. Like, you're not gonna. I'm not saying, oh, you need to just chat more. You need to make what you're going to say have more impact. And that, for example, coming up with the unexpected plot twist to your business review or your product review, coming up with a more interesting way of introducing yourself, because people have to know, trust, and like you. Just like with sales. If any of you have had sales training, know, trust, and like. And all other things being equal, a person who's a good storyteller is more well known and more well liked. So those are the things that you have to come, that you need to deal with, you need to face. And it's getting to know more people. But anytime you're speaking one to many, whether you're in an executive leadership meeting or you're making a presentation, that's where you want to put attention to yourself. Like, how can I show them that I'm trustworthy, show them my likable side, and help them to remember who I am by being more interesting than what they were expecting? That's a short answer.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it leads right into something that, again, I hope people are comfortable with, which is truly being that authentic self, that vulnerable self. Because in my opinion, if you want to let people, or you want people to really remember you, you got to let them in.
Yes.
You got to be willing to put the walls down, open up the kimono a little bit, and say, "Hey, here I am in all its glory. Like, this is who I am." And as you're talking, again, I have this certain idea of introverts where whoo, I'm not real comfortable doing that. And yet, it's funny. I find introverts to be far more genuine and authentic than most extroverts that I meet. Not a show. This is who I am. Like it or not, here you go. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point of view, and I think, yeah, I think there's something to that because I think if you're a more extroverted person, that you are able to command attention because you tell such good stories, and you don't really, you're not in a way forced to be vulnerable. You just tell them more stories or tell them another thing. Oh, this one gets them every time. It's so cool, and um that's the introvert extrovert, whereas the introvert, yeah, say what you mean what you say, the straight line between 2 points. So we do tend, to be authentic. We can be afraid to, we can misread, especially when you're with an intimidating audience, and think, oh, what they want is perfection. They do not want perfection. Nobody want you. If we want perfection, we'll go to AI. We want human, and it doesn't, every single person, we have a unique footprint, we have a unique way of looking at the world, a unique sense of humor, unique set of experiences and skills. That's what people crave. And so that is where the introvert would have an advantage of sharing some of that in a short and interesting way.
Yeah, I hope you guys all heard how important this share. Just be you.
Yes.
It is so powerful. And I love what the point. Look, you're going to make mistakes,
Mhm.
and that's okay. You're not, perfection is such the enemy of greatness. I don't recall who said it, but it's absolutely true. It's the enemy of greatness. I'm just curious. I'm going to give you open forum here because I could talk to you and ask you questions for
Mhm.
days. But again, I want to make sure that you get to say what's on your mind or what's on your heart.
Mhm.
Anything I didn't know enough to ask you, Laura, that you're like, we got to talk about this before we start to kind of wrap things up.
Well, I'll start with, and this is for people, this is for the business context. I feel adequate to talk to people about their intimate, their family lives, but communication is communication. But if you're intimidated by an audience, or you don't feel like what you have to say is important enough, or you're even asking yourself that question, I want you to think good and hard about being the trusted advisor, because you could be the janitor's assistant at a company, or you could be somebody who just started work out of college 2 weeks ago. You could be very senior. It doesn't matter. You, if you're paying attention, you have seen things that could be better, and you have ideas, and you have potential solutions, ways of thinking that would be helpful to others if they heard it. It's not that you're going to go around telling everybody what to do. I'm not saying that. That's for sure what nobody wants. But think about how you can step up and be more of a trusted advisor in your conversations. If you're selling, we want to buy from people that we trust and that have our best interests at heart. And if we're engineers or marketing people or finance people, we want to help the organization do better, and we have ideas. And so they need that input, and they don't know that they need it. They don't know what you're thinking. If you don't have anything, if you don't say anything, people assume you have nothing to say. How about that?
I absolutely could not agree more. You all have this lens that no other person in the world has. And this is where I talk about it, called reverse mentoring,
Mhm.
where it's not the typical mentor mentee relationship. Both parties bring as much value to the relationship because, sure, it's knowledge, expertise for the traditional mentor, but the mentee, maybe they know something about social media that the
Yes,
the veteran didn't know.
exactly.
Maybe you do, like you said, I'm in an entry level position, and you see all these things that are like, oh my gosh, this is not good.
Right.
Please speak up. Your opinion is valued. It is so important. Laura, you're a fascinating person I could talk to for a long time. I think more people are going to want to talk to you after listening to this. If my audience, they want to hear more from you,
Mhm.
they're like, yes, I'm in. where would be the best place to learn more about what you're doing, how to work with you? What's the best place to connect with you?
Oh, well, you're very kind, and it's such a pleasure to get to talk about my favorite topic with you. And the best place would be my website, speakupwithlaura.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. And if you're in business, you probably have a LinkedIn profile. Would love to connect there, say hello. Either one of those two places would be great. And I would really enjoy getting to know those of you listening and answering any additional questions you have. Any communication conundrums, bring them my way. I love it.
Well, that's one thing that's a guarantee. They're always going to happen. You will have a job for life because of this. Laura, you're awesome. I
Thank you.
appreciate you showing up, being you, and just all the amazing nuggets you gave. I thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Everybody have a great day. It's such a good time here.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, look, introverts versus extroverts. We wear one of those hats, if not multiple. Why am I talking? I'm using that. Wait, why am I talking so good? And how can I evoke curiosity? There's so much goodness in this. Please share this with someone that you know. Maybe they need a little work on communication. You don't have to say that. Just share the episode. Check it out. And until next time, remember your mindset matters. I appreciate you all so much. We'll talk to you soon.